welcome back to the channel. So in this video today, I want to break down one of my newest tracks that I recently put out. You might have seen it, called The Summit. I want to share bits of my musical journey so far, because I haven't been producing music for very long at all. I want to say it hasn't even been a full year since I've stepped onto the scene and have tried making my own music. And that wasn't the first full track that I put out, but it taught me a lot about music composition, which is a skill that you need to build and get better at and practice, and that song helped me practice a lot. It wasn't as abstract as like an ambient song or ambient track, because there's like a beginning, middle, and an end, and a chorus and a main melody and all the things that go into composition. So I don't want to say it was my best display of composition. I had a lot of challenges, and I want to talk about some challenges I had in this track, and I want to break down some sections that I had some fun with, and also some pieces in the song or in the track that I've had some challenges with as well. So yeah, let's just dive right into it. I have my DAW set up so you can see everything that I'm doing on the computer. I'll show you some instruments I used. This isn't going to be like a tutorial or how-to. This is just sharing the process of making this particular track and some things I liked about it and some things that challenged me as a producer. So let's jump into it. Okay, here we are. Loading, making sure that's loading. Perfect. All right, here we are in Bitwig. This is my favorite DAW so far. I mean, I've used some other DAWs, and I know people really like different DAWs that are different from Bitwig. Like Ableton is a popular one. I think I was in Ableton once or twice for a little under an hour, so I don't know anything about it. It looked very different from Bitwig. Personally, I'm a very visual person, and I like a very clean, minimalistic look, and I feel like Bitwig, visually to me, is easy to understand. When I look at it, it feels minimalistic, it feels simple. I like the colors of it. So with that being said, this is what I typically use. Now, in the beginning here of the track, I wanted to go with an atmosphere to set the mood, and I chose children playing on a playground, and I wanted to make that very atmospheric, very 3D sounding, very immersive. One thing that I don't know how to do yet, but I want to dive into, is stereo imaging. I don't really know how it works. I know a little bit about it. I know what it could do for certain sounds, and how it takes a sound or bits in the audio and places certain elements of that audio like in different places. So, you know, like the sounds that you hear in this audio clip of children playing, it might space those sounds out a bit to make them have more depth and immersion to them. So in order to achieve something that was more atmospheric, I decided to play a little bit with some reverb to create some depth to it, and some panning. So the panning will make the sound travel from the left and right ear back and forth, and it's not too quick, it's very slow, but it makes it so the sound is playing on both sides, so it kind of sounds like you're actually in that environment, and that's the goal that I was going for. So that was one of my first challenges. So this is what that sounds like soloed out. So you can kind of feel it, especially if you have headphones in and you're listening to this. It's kind of traveling back and forth between the left and right, just gliding ever so gently, which is very nice. And then moving on, I have the instrument, which is probably the most important part of this song. I'm going to pronounce it the wrong way. I'm very sorry if you know what this instrument is and you hear this pronunciation and you're like, that's not correct. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. The instrument is from India. It's swarmandal. That's probably not right. But I heard it and I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. It sounds very organic. It has a spiritual essence to it. And I was listening to it and I was playing it, and I actually played this live in this track. So I added a lot of rhythm to it. So when I play it on my MIDI keyboard, it sounds really cool because there's like an arpeggiator, there's some delay, and when you play it, it has a lot of rhythm to it. So I was playing this instrument and I was like, I kind of want that to be the main melody. So this is what that sounds like. Solo it out. So that's the instrument. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. I think we're going to go with that for the main melody. And then I don't know if I started with that element first. And that's one thing about when I make my music. I don't jump into the DAW thinking like, okay, I want this drum beat. I want this as the main melody. I want this as the pattern of the melody. When I make music, it just comes out of me, basically. It's like a channel. It's like whatever wants to come out is whatever comes out. So I can't sit down and force anything in the DAW or force an idea and be like, okay, it's going to have this particular structure and that's it. It's just very organic. So that's just the pattern I came up with. And I was doing the percussive elements, I think, first, because I was really interested in getting that organic drum groove. And I've been inspired lately by different artists who make this kind of music. And I would call it like organic down-tempo. I think that's what you would call it. But basically artists like Feverkin, he's a big inspiration of mine right now. So I wanted to make a track kind of like in his style, but not like copy, 100%. Just do that kind of style in my own way. So I was really interested in getting a organic drum groove going. So in the beginning of this song, I started with some high-end instruments. This is actually a Santor, which is an instrument, but it has these FX knocks on them. So the FX knocks is it sounds like percussion. And so I decided to use that as the drums in the beginning. And it's very like high-end stuff. It's very sparse in the intro. So let me just play that so you can get a feel for that. So when I say high end, I mean like there's no bass in that, right? There's no kick drum. It's just very sparse, spread out, just high end stuff. And I really like that. So I was like, that's going to be in the beginning. And then moving on, I decided to actually put a kick drum in later in the song, because when you have those high elements and you listen to the rest of the track, you feel like you need some low end stuff. So I have this kick drum here. Solo that out. And if you just solo that out completely, just the kick drum, it's like, wow, that sounds great, right? That's it. That's all it is. But in context with the other higher end elements and the rest of the song, it gave it just what it needed. So I'll show you later on in context, but we're going to move on to the synth pad. Pads are like one of my favorite things. And I did not actually design this pad, although I do know how to take a synth sound and design it to create a pad. But I actually used a plug-in for this pad because it sounded great in context of the song that I was going for, or the genre that I was going for. So it's very ethereal. It's got that spiritual essence to it. I actually think the pad is called Divine, so that's why I picked it. So I'll just solo that out so you can hear it. So I really like that. So that was the kick drum you heard, but we'll take that off. Okay, so we'll put it in context with everything else, and we'll play you the introduction. We'll put the percussive elements on, we'll put the atmosphere on, and we'll show you what that sounds like all together. So that was the intro, and it gives you that build, that momentum that you need from the drums, from those percussive elements. It's a building, it's a momentum to the main melody. And I'll tell you, that's one of the things that when I made this song, it's helping me understand composition, and that's one thing that I struggle with. But it's a skill, and you can develop that skill, and you can be better at it. So when I did the intro, I had to figure out a transition into the main melody, into the main instrument. And one of the ways you can make a transition is by using riser elements or SFX sounds or samples. So basically a whoosh sound, I would call it. It's just a riser sound that comes in that gives you that sense of pushing straight into the next section. And it's very easy, very simple to do if you have the right kind of sample. So that's all I did. I sampled that and drug it into the DAW. So you have this little short transition from the intro into the main instrument. So I will show you what that sounds like. Let's solo these out. Okay, here we go. Like a whoosh sound and that was to signify that we're moving into the next section. Now that is one of the most simplest ways to create a transition. There's other ways, but right now where I'm at as a beginner, I don't know how to do those other ways because I've never tried. But this is very simple, so I was like, if this works, we're just gonna go with that. And that was my goal with this track, was to create a beginning, middle, and an end, and create those transitions successfully. They didn't have to be perfect. They just had to complete the basic sketch of the composition. So that's what we did. So going back to the kick drum, after that transition comes into play, the kick drum does come in to provide some lower end with those higher end percussive elements. So I'm going to show you what that kick drum sounds like now in context with the rest of the song. So if we just take these off real quick, so I can just remind you of what that kick drum sounds like on its own. Very simple, right? And you're like, well, how is that going to sound good with the rest of the song? Just trust me. So here we go. So just a little bit of low end, nothing crazy, but a nice little kick drum in there. really just helps bring it together, right? So we have that main melody that repeats for an extended period of time. And I would say the part that I really became confused in this song is like the middle section and close to the end. I wanted to make this at least 3 minutes long, but I cut it a little short because I was trying to figure out what needed to go in the middle and at the end. And this song was practice for that. So there's a few other things I'll just mention here. In the middle part, I decided to strip some things back, bring in another instrument and play a little solo on that, which was these Chinese bells. So that sounded pretty good. And I was like, we'll just play a solo with that. And then I brought in another set of drums, 2 sets actually, and I layered them. But here's the first set. And there's some panning on that, so it travels from the left to right ear. And then I layered that with another layer of drums, so together. That set combined with this set. Very cool, very nice. Then all together with the bells. Actually, we'll just take everything off and just play it. So yeah, I really like those drums that I had in there because it's very consistent and very upbeat of like taking things to the next level. And those bells sounded pretty nice. And then after that, it goes back to the main melody again, the main instrument that we used in the very beginning, or in the chorus as well. And at the end, we had the Chinese bells come in again, but it played a little bit of a different pattern, and then it faded out. So, you know, essentially, this song is pretty simple, and I just wanted to break it down and share the things that I had trouble with and the things that I found fun as well. I know I had a lot of fun creating the drum groove, but yeah, like I said, I had some challenges when it came to composition and some other things as well. So these are just things that I'm running into at my point on the journey, but I wanted to just share and ask you guys if you want to leave me some feedback on the track itself, if you make music, if you have any suggestions, or just even things when it comes down to mixing and mastering, things that maybe I could do to improve my music in the future. If you do make music and you want to connect with me online and you want to talk music specifically, be sure to reach out to me either in the comment section or go look me up on Instagram, Dirtyzen on Instagram. I respond to everyone, so we can chat and we can talk about music and, you know, have some fun, maybe collaborate. You never know. So yeah, and if you liked watching this video, consider subscribing, following along for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace and namaste.